into your blood. And that's when your blood sugar, what they call blood sugar, gets really high. And then what happens is your body goes, wow, all this sugar, all my cells need lots of energy. And so your body releases a chemical called insulin. Have you heard of insulin? Okay, diabetics, people with diabetes have problems with insulin. So the insulin comes and it takes the sugar, it like opens the gate. It opens the gate so the sugar can go out of the blood into the cells. Okay? Well, that's a good thing, except what ends up happening is the more times that your body releases insulin, the less it works. It's like a drug almost. Like, you know how people who are addicted to drugs, the more they do it, the more they have to do it, and then they just do more and more and more drugs, and then they overdose, and then they die. Like, especially like heroin, people just have that problem. Okay, well, insulin is the same thing in your body. So that's why sugar should be categorized like a drug. It really should, and it's sad because kids, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but kids get victimized by this drug because it's sold to kids. It's really messed up because then these kids, their insulin goes, and what happens is when it still works okay, when the insulin is still working, like before you become resistant to it, then your blood all goes out of your blood your sugar all goes out of your blood at the same time, and then your sugar gets really low, your blood sugar. And that's when you get a headache, and that's when you get grumpy and cry, and that's when all these things happen. And eventually someone could pass out and they can go into a coma and they could possibly die when their blood sugar gets really low. Coma, death. It's hypoglycemic coma. Okay? And that is something that occurs when people have insulin sensitivity. Like, usually I know of a couple different younger people that have that problem. Because when you're young, the insulin still works. So if you eat a whole bunch of sugar and the insulin works really well, then your blood sugar crashes and it's very dangerous. Well, as you get older, like those drug addicts, the insulin doesn't work anymore. Just like someone shooting up heroin, except your body's making it. It's insulin, not heroin. It doesn't work, and so your body makes more insulin and more insulin and more insulin because it doesn't work. Like the gate gets rusty because it's been opened so many times by that insulin to let the sugar in that the gate's just like, and so your body puts more insulin and the gate's like, and then your blood sugar just stays high. And when your blood sugar stays high, what happens is it doesn't fit through your little tiny vessels, so your feet go numb. And if your feet go numb, they can start to rot. That's diabetes. And then you get neuropathy. You can't feel your feet. You get a little tiny cut on your foot. It won't heal because the sugar is clogging up all the vessels. So it literally starts to clog up your little tiny vessels so that your body can't heal. That's diabetes later. But now it's happening to kids, not just adults. So if there's a kid who already has low blood sugar, then what that can lead to, not besides coma and death, that can lead to diabetes, okay, which can lead to like rotting feet and all kinds of stuff. People have had to get their feet cut off because of this sugar, okay? So then what happens, there's still even more. That's not all. This is all from sugar, okay? Then what happens is the body makes so much insulin and it doesn't work. Your pancreas is the one that makes the insulin. It's right about here with near your liver. The pancreas can't make any more insulin. It gets worn out. So it just stops making insulin entirely. And that's when you go from type 1 diabetes to type 2 diabetes. So first there's hypoglycemia. And that's what I think most kids that eat sugar a lot, they suffer from when they get their headaches and when they get grumpy and that's hypoglycemia. Yes, that's step 1. But that can turn into type 1 diabetes, which is where your body makes lots of insulin and it doesn't work anymore. That's also, there's a term called insulin resistance. You're just resistant to the insulin. Then the third final step is type 2. And what that means is your body doesn't make insulin anymore. Some people go straight to type 2, like if they get a virus or a disease or something. If their pancreas gets hurt, sometimes it's not from sugar. Sometimes they get type 2 for another reason. But anyway, when your body doesn't make any insulin at all, that's when you have to start taking shots. So every time you eat, you got to shoot up insulin. You got to constantly check your blood sugar. So like needles will be a big part of that person's life. They will have to always prick their finger. Like, if someone has hypoglycemia, they should be pricking their finger. If someone has type 1 diabetes, they should be pricking their finger. But once you get to type 2 diabetes, you're not only pricking your finger, you're injecting insulin into you. Like, I don't know if they do the stomach or the butt or they do different things. Some people have a little thing attached to them all the time, an insulin pump. But the problem with that is you're like, okay, well, that's fine, right? They can just take insulin the rest of their life. Well, there's a few problems with that. For one, what if the economy collapses? Or what if their parent loses their job or they lose their job or whatever and they can't get any more insulin? Then they would immediately die. Number two, remember, insulin doesn't work after a while. So they have to use lots and lots of insulin. Now, why is that bad? Because do you know what insulin does? It ages you. It makes you grow old faster. So what that means is when you start injecting it, you're literally aging yourself extra fast every time. So every time you eat sugar, you're literally aging yourself faster. They had these worms that were studied, and I saw it on the public broadcasting station, Nova Science. It was on Nova Science Now. There were these worms, and they tested these worms to see how long they would live. And some of them they fed like 60% of what people normally eat, and some of them they fed like 100% of what people normally eat, like calories. The ones that ate less lived like way longer. So sugar and calories really like make you live a shorter life. But besides that, it can make your feet rot off. It can make you die of a coma. It can also, you know what else sugar does that has nothing to do with diabetes, is it feeds cancer. So if you have a little tiny lump in your arm and you're like, oh, it's just a little tiny lump, the doctor said it's nothing. What if that little tiny lump has a cancer cell? Okay, what if a little tiny lump has a cancer cell in it? Sugar goes straight into cancer cells, whereas other things have a hard time getting into cancer cells. So if you're just eating sugar all the time, like everyone has a little bit of abnormal cells in their body, that's kind of normal. But when those abnormal cells grow and grow and grow and grow, it becomes cancer, and then people can obviously die from that. Sugar feeds cancer. So I'm just saying sugar is probably the most important thing that people could cut out of their diets. If there's anything at all, cut out the excess sugar. And I've given you a ton of reasons why. I hope